So ESPN insider Adam Schefter just linked the Baltimore Ravens to Deebo Samuel, the star wide receiver who has requested a trade from the 49ers. The Baltimore Ravens are looking for another weapon. We know they need some more depth at the wide receiver position, but we also are going to talk about a list of free agent wide receivers, some guys in the draft. And then Kyle Van Noy just talked about the Baltimore Ravens front office and a possible new contract after a 12.5 sack season. You're going to want to listen to that, as well as the Baltimore Ravens actually being listed as a Super Bowl favorite for next year, tied with the Kansas City Chiefs as co-favorites, and some other surprising stats you're going to want to look into, man. So welcome into another episode of Ravens Reports. It's your guy Noah here with For the Flock, as always, bringing you guys our top 5 news reports and storylines coming out of our Baltimore Ravens today. I hope you guys are doing well. As always, if you enjoy these episodes of Ravens Reports, man, make sure to smash the like button. It really helps out the channel. Let's dive into the content. At number 1, Deebo talk on the Pat McAfee show. If you guys haven't already been made aware, Deebo Samuel requested a trade from the 49ers. Back in 2022, he requested a trade before he got his big contract, and the Baltimore Ravens were actually linked to Deebo Samuel that year before they ultimately drafted Zay Flowers in the draft. But since then, Zay Flowers has turned out to be a legit wide receiver one type of player with over 1,000 yards this last season. A guy that can really make yards after catch, explosive, can get downfield, make you miss, can be used in a lot of different ways. Eric Decosta also revealed that they've been looking for an X type of wide receiver, that's the type of guy they haven't really hit on. And there's some guys in this year's draft, anywhere from the first to like the 4th round, where there's some legit X type of prospects. Will they pan out? That's the big gamble. But if you're looking to add another weapon, Deebo Samuel is definitely a weapon, even though he's not necessarily an X type of jump ball outside receiver type of guy. But I do know that Deebo is a bully. He is a dog. He would be an element add to the wide receiver core of the Ravens that they don't have right now. And I want you guys to just think about this for 1 second before we show the clip about Adam Schefter linking the Deebo Samuel to the Baltimore Ravens, man. The Baltimore Ravens have physicality all over their team. They have that dog mentality. Look at Kyle Hamilton in the safety position. Look at Roquan Smith at the linebacker position. Look at some of the boys on the defensive line with Van Noy and Matabike, those guys that really bring that dog mentality. And then look at the offense. You can look at Linderbaum and Rosengarten bringing that physicality. And then you got Derrick Henry at the running back position, Patrick Ricard at the fullback position. The one position on your team that you don't really have a bully, like a physicality tone-setting guy, is at the wide receiver position. Now, I love Bateman. I love Flowers. Those guys are awesome. They are really good at getting open, creating separation, and winning their routes. They can make plays downfield. They can get off the line of scrimmage. I love those guys. They're really good weapons for Lamar, and I think they're two very good wide receiver 1 and 2 type of guys for the Ravens wide receiver core. But if you're looking for another physical guy, that's not necessarily their game. And Deebo Samuel would add a little bit of that physicality, like I will block you, I will run you over, I'll bounce off tackles, I'll bring the hit to you type of guy. And it would definitely be fun because the Baltimore Ravens need more depth at the wide receiver position. Reminder that Nelson Aguilar and Tylan Wallace are both free agents. Those were the wide receiver 3 and 4 for the Ravens last year. So the guys left are really Tez Walker, who was a 4th round draft pick, Rashad Bateman, and Zay Flowers. That's a nice little start, for 3 wide receivers in your room. But you definitely have room for 2 or 3 more guys to be added into this mix. Deebo Samuel could be that guy. Here's what Adam Schefter had to say on Deebo Samuel.
More big news out of San Francisco. The 49ers gave Deebo Samuel permission to seek a trade. Are we going to see a lot of this? Because we've already seen Cooper Kupp being told by the team, go ahead, we're going to trade you. And now Deebo, of course, with the Niners, a little bit of a different situation. But what teams are going to be in it for Deebo, do you think?
And we know you're plugged in over there.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Well, I spoke to Deebo yesterday morning, so
of course
we didn't go over the teams just yet. I would think that there'd be a lot of teams that could use a player like Deebo. Obviously, I think the 49ers did a tremendous job at maximizing his talents, but think of all the teams that need wide receivers. There's so many of them, and there's still going to be so much wide receiver movement this offseason. that I don't know. Like, what happens if T. Higgins leaves Cincinnati? Would he be an option there? What if Tyreek Hill gets traded from Miami? Is he an option there?
I thought Tyreek was all in. Didn't he say he took back his I'm out and his mom called him or something like that?
I saw it, yeah.
Yeah, what did he say?
He says a lot.
I'm just saying there are a lot of outstanding. I think it's hard to pinpoint right now where Deebo would go. I could see him in Pittsburgh. I could see him in Baltimore. I could see him in a lot of places.
Denver.
Like any of those
Vegas.
any of those AFC North teams makes sense.
Okay, we would love to have him here in Indy. You know, Deebo's a dog.
Packers.
There's just always a situation seemingly out there with the Niners.
Always.
There's always something brewing with the Niners.
Now, for the Baltimore Ravens to acquire Deebo, they'd have to, if a team were to acquire Deebo, they'd have to take on $17.5 million on this year's cap. However, they could definitely do a trade and extension to where you push that money out to other years and just redo the entire contract. So that's not necessarily a big concern as far as money-wise. The question is how much does Deebo think he's worth? Because, he only had like 650 receiving yards last year. I think he had 800 yards from scrimmage, a few touchdowns. He had one monster season where he had 1,400 receiving yards and a ton of rushing yards. But since then, he's kind of been hovering around the 600 to 800 receiving yard range, which is fine for a guy that wants to be paid as a wide receiver 2 or 3. But if he's wanting wide receiver 1 money, I don't know if the Ravens would be able to make this happen. Plus, they'd have to give up draft capital, but the Ravens do have 11 draft picks. But then again, you could use some of that draft capital on a wide receiver in the draft. And there's some guys that I really like in this year's draft. Some physical guys, some bigger guys that are like 6'2" and above that can add some more physicality to the Ravens wide receiver room. So let me just also, at number 2, let me show you a list of free agent wide receivers if the Ravens wanted to go that route to add another playmaker for Lamar, because we saw in a playoff game against the Buffalo Bills, Zay Flowers was out that game. Rashad Bateman went down. Tylan Wallace was like your top guy at that point, which you don't want that happening, right? You want to have some more depth. And there's some guys out there in the free agent market, but they might be priced out of Baltimore's range because of some other guys they're going to have to take care of. They got some work to do in the secondary. Brandon Stevens and Trey White are both free agents, so they need another starting corner. That could come via draft. That could come via free agency. That could come from a guy that they trust in TJ Tampa or Jalen Armour-Davis as well, but that's a big question mark. The Ravens also got some work to do at left tackle because Ronnie Stanley's a free agent. So the Ravens got some holes. Not as many holes as they did heading into this last year's offseason. You guys remember whenever Clowney, Patrick Queen, Van Noy, all these guys were free agents, Geno Stone. They lost a ton of starters last year. I think this year's a little bit easier of a path to really kind of boost your roster and improve instead of just replenish. But there are some guys out there that are worth mentioning. T. Higgins is the big one. He's literally the definition of an ex-physical receiver. There's also Chris Godwin, who was having a monster season, actually leading the NFL in receiving yards last year before he went down with injury whenever Roquan Smith, caused that injury, accidentally, of course. But there's also Amari Cooper. There is Cooper Kupp that's available via trade, Deebo Samuel available via trade. So there's some guys out there, but these guys usually get paid good money. It'll be interesting to see the market for these type of guys in free agency. At number 3, Kyle Van Noy. He's been a star for the Baltimore Ravens since they made the move where he came off the couch, right? Came off the couch in the middle of the 2023 season, had like 9.5 sacks, comes back in free agency the next year, and then has 12.5 sacks and makes his first Pro Bowl at 33 years of age. So Kyle Van Noy really playing good football now that he's been only focusing on pass rushing. That's what the Ravens have asked him to do. And when he was with other teams, he was asked to do so much more stuff as a Sam linebacker, dropping into coverage and doing, other role player type of things. But he's showing, since he's been on the Ravens, that he can really win as a pass rusher in big moments. He just feels like he has a knack for hitting the quarterback, getting to the quarterback, and he's made some plays for the Ravens. He was on this show that we're going to show this little clip of real quick, asking about his contract, being on the final year And what that means for him, here's what he had to say.
12 and a half sacks this year.
Yeah.
But you only signed a $9 million deal.
No guaranteed money?
So that don't add up to me. So like,
Sound like a holdout.
that sounds like a holdout. Like I said, I'm a pro. You know, EDC, we'll have a conversation, but I'm going to handle business how business needs to be handled. I'm going to show up. I don't need to be a distraction. I think they'll do right. They've done right by me since I've been there. I have nothing but respect for the organization. Mr. Bouchatti, the owner, first class from top down. And so I'm going to be first class of them. They deserve it.
At number 4, speaking of Kyle Van Noy and the pass rushers, the defense in general, they got some work to do as far as their pass rush. All right, so I want to show you guys, because even though the Ravens got a lot of sacks last year, our guy Cole Jackson, who we're going to have on the channel sometime in March to talk about some draft stuff, he came out with some stats for the 2024 edge rusher stat ranks for the Ravens. So Kyle Van Noy, he had a pass rush win rate of 11.9%, which was 51st out of edge rushers. So, but he had 13 sacks. So the pressures that he did get turned into sacks, but he wasn't necessarily winning at a high rate. Owe had 10 sacks, which was 15th in the NFL. And he had a higher pass rush win rate than Van Noy at 13.2%, which was good for 39th. So far on the roster, the Ravens do not have an edge rusher that is top 32. Like, there's 32 teams. They don't have an edge rusher that's top 32 in pass rush win rate. Ajabo had a 6.5% pass rush win rate, which was 100th in the NFL. Tavius Robinson with a 5.3, which is 113th. But also keep in mind, Tavius Robinson was on the field a lot for first and second down, where you're expecting run, and it's not those third down pass rushing situations. He didn't get a lot of those. Like Van Noy and Owe got those reps. Robinson, those numbers are going to be lower because he was on the field a lot on first and second down. You get hit with play action. You don't actually get to pin your ears back and hunt. So I do like Tavius Robinson. I thought he made some plays. He had 4 sacks this year, and I think he's developed nicely. So also, we got Adisa Isaac going into his second year. He was banged up with some injuries. Ajabo's going into the last year of his deal, I believe. So the Ravens needs to add some more in the pass rush department. Khalil Mack is a free agent. We've talked about him already, but there's also some guys that could be available in the first and second rounds that are like difference-making type of pass rushers. So keep your eye out for some of those guys. The Ravens need to be adding to that pass rush department because of this stat right here. All right, look at this. Look at this chart. The Eagles, this is from Jonas Schaefer on X. Eagles had more takeaways in a 6-minute span on Sunday, 2 takeaways, than the Ravens have in every Lamar Jackson playoff start since 2019, which is 1. So in one game, in a 6-minute span, Eagles get 2 turnovers, and the Ravens in the playoffs since 2019 only have 1 turnover where they've given the ball back to Lamar. In the regular season, the turnover battle, look at the numbers here. Lamar, like the Ravens are top of this list here with the Bills and the Steelers. But in the playoffs, the Ravens are not even close. They are the worst team in turnover margin in the playoffs. So part of this, I understand, is Lamar. Like, you got to protect the ball in the playoffs. But part of it is also other guys turning the ball over, like Zay Flowers fumbling on the goal line in the AFC Championship last year to possibly tie that game up. Or, Mark Andrews fumbling in the middle of the field whenever you're about to go take the lead in a playoff game in the divisional round in Buffalo on the road. It's on other guys, but it's also on the defense to create more turnovers for this ratio. Like, teams are going to turn the ball over now and then, but your defense has to be able to force some turnovers as well to get the turnover margin, the ratio, as close to even as possible, if not in your favor. And the Ravens have just not done that in the playoffs. I think part of it is a lack of game-wrecking pass rushers. Like, they really haven't had a game-wrecking pass rusher since Terrell Suggs. Terrell Suggs was the last, dominant guy you had to account for. Owe has been a nice player. He splashes here and there, and I think he's good. He's getting better. He was very young and green coming out of college, so I still have faith in Owe to be a guy, but I still think you need more. And besides Kyle Van Noy and Tavius Robinson and Disa Isaac, I think you need another first or second round pick and or a free agent. I just do. That's how I feel. And number 5, we'll talk about this. This is crazy. The Baltimore Ravens and the Chiefs are co-favorites to win next year's Super Bowl, according to ESPN Bet. So the Baltimore Ravens, knocked out of the divisional round, are right now favorites to win the Super Bowl. Crazy to think about, but that's what the people that make odds and do this professionally full-time for a living, that's what they think about the Ravens with Lamar, the coaching staff returning with Todd Monken in year 3, Zach Orr, Derrick Henry coming back. I think the Ravens are going to be very good. Like I said, I think they're going to win the number 1 seed this upcoming year. I really do. I feel strongly about that. I think they're going to get off to a hotter start where they don't start 0-2. I think they're going to start more like 4-1, 7-1, 7-2, that type. I think they're going to get off to a really nice start and be in contention for that number 1 seed, which would be nice to only have to win two games and then you're in the Super Bowl and you get home playoff games. It's definitely the easiest path. The Chiefs have, been able to take that path multiple times. The Patriots and their dynasty have been able to take that path. Unfortunately, last year, the Ravens, they were in the AFC Championship with that path and fell short to the Chiefs. And I think if you learned anything from the Super Bowl, to get past Mahomes and Kansas City, you need a 4-man pass rush that can get after it to leave guys in coverage and keep the quarterback uncomfortable and can hit him and hit him and hit him. But I think that's really a successful formula for any quarterback in any team, is a dominant 4-man pass rush, but it definitely got to Mahomes with what the Eagles were able to do, man. So smash the like button if you got any value out of today's content. I love you guys. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in. We'll see you in the next video.
Ray, when he wasn't looking, he ran me over.